Hello and welcome. Welcome to this video where I shall work with you to help understand the types of ISO standards. I have broken down the different standards from the ISO family into four heads. One that I'm calling as specification standard, the second which I'm calling as guideline standard, third as terms and vocabulary standard, and the other standards have been categorized in the others category by me. Specification standards are essentially standards which have mandated requirements as laid down by an expert body like ISO. Adherence to this specification standard shall result in certification. Should any organization choose to meet the mandated requirements as per the specification standard and chooses that it is audited by a competent authority, your organization shall be certified for this specification standard. Remember that ISO standards are not enforceable by law. Hence, it is a voluntary choice by organizations to implement particular ISO standards in their own company. Some very common examples of specification standard are ISO 27001 or information technology security techniques, information security management system requirements. This is a certifiable standard on information security. So should your organization choose to implement information security standard and wishes to get itself certified for the same, it shall have to adhere to the minimum requirements as mandated in ISO 27001. Similarly, there's a standard called ISO 9001, which is about quality management system. If you are looking for quality management system certification, your organization will have to adhere to the mandates as mentioned in ISO 9001. Then there are certain standards which I am calling as guideline standards. These are non-certifiable. These standards are aimed at providing guidance towards some standard or objective. These are non-certifiable, like I mentioned. That is, even if you've chosen to implement them, you shall not be certified for the same. Some examples could be ISO 19011, which is a guideline for auditing management systems, or ISO 31000, which is a guideline for risk management. These are non-certifiable international standards. The third category is the terms and vocabulary standard. To enable better understanding of specification standards, for every series of ISO standard, the first standard is mostly the terms and vocabulary standard. This too is a non-certifiable standard. For example, you have ISO 27000, ISO 9000, which is nothing but the ISO 27000 is overview and vocabulary on ISMS, and ISO 9000 is the fundamentals and vocabulary on QMS. These are non-certifiable standards that must be referenced in your pursuit to implement the certifiable standard or the specification standard of that family. Then you have several other types of standards that are available. Again, these are non-certifiable. You have standards like code of practice. You have standards for particular sector. These are all non-certifiable international standards that are available. It is important for you to realize that certification will happen only for the specification standard. And most of these standards will always end with a 1. Mark here the name 27001, 9001, you have a 14001. 22,301. So most of these specification standard will commonly end with a 1, while the terms and vocabulary standard will always end with a 0. You have a 27,000, 9,000. These are the fundamental and vocabulary or overview and vocabulary standard. Vocabulary standards are intended to give you definition of the technical terms used in the standard, while the specification standards are the certifiable standards. So in your pursuit to get your organization certified, you will have to adhere to or follow the bare minimum requirement as mentioned in that standard. And should your organization look at getting itself certified, you will have to get yourself audited by a competent authority. A competent authority meaning a certification body which has been approved to provide certificate in that particular domain. I hope you find this very simple video useful. Thank you.